evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Isha Foundation, Penguin and Crossword, I would like to invite you to a very special event. Launch of the book, Sadhguru More Than Alive, by the poet Arundhathi Subramaniam. I would like to first invite Kamini Mahadevan, the consultant editor of Penguin India, to tell us a little bit about the book and also about Penguin's new spirituality imprint, Ananda.
As a meditator, Arundhathi's awe, admiration, empathy is palpable throughout the narrative. And yet there are also strains of a healthy skepticism, which she very gently expresses in her asides. For many lay and initiated readers interested in spirituality, all this makes the book invitational. It opens the window to Sadhguru's philosophy of life and death and rouses the desire to delve further and perhaps venture on the path he has shown in their own way. I have to say, on a personal note, I did not know about Sadhguru before I started reading and working on this book, but engaging with this rich and beautifully written narrative of Sadhguru's life and experiences has been a joy and life-affirming.
To me, this book is like a struggle, a constant. You see the struggle to find a way into a life that is, when you read it, you just read it as if it's a thriller. You're just being pulled along by a narrative that is startling, it is outrageous at certain points. You put it on in your lap and you say, and then because you can't resist, you pick it up again and you start reading and you find that you're dragged along by an undertow. It shows you that it is possible to be reverent and it is possible to be engaged without actually sort of falling into this kind of spineless puddle at the feet of the Guru. And this is, I think, the central problem for many of us, that when you think of the word Guru, you immediately get this kind of crawly feeling. What will he expect? Will he expect me to do seva and stuff like that? But from listening to Arundhathi talking about him, he seems like a very human person.
May I now request Akbar Padamsi, one of our special guests for this evening and one of the most distinguished artists of our times, to release the book.
I think this book is wonderful. I've been reading it for the last 4 days, and being a painter, images always come to my mind. And the image that constantly came to my mind was that of a spiral. A spiral is a circle within a circle within a circle. It's in continuum. And why a spiral? Because we find, as a child, as a young man, then later as a businessman, who started a poultry farm and even construction business. And finally, his enlightenment at the rock near Mysore, in Chamund Hills. And I find the same person always at different light, at different stages of his own development to being at last the Sadhguru. Thank you very much.
May I now invite Arundhathi Subramaniam, the author of the book, to take the stage.
The only Guru I could envisage was the sage in a B-grade Indian mythological movie with a candy floss beard and an air of constipated benignness. Dead Gurus were fine. They left behind words that provoked, challenged. That was manageable. But live Gurus were unthinkable. Or to put it another way, I knew I didn't have the qualifications, social, cultural, or historical, to deserve them. And yogis? I thought they were a bit like unicorns, near mythic. I thought they were only to be found in remote Himalayan caves or in exotic spiritual literature. The only yogis I knew were the kind who held classes 2 days a week to beat stress and combat diabetes. Then I met Sadhguru. Many things changed in my life after that encounter 6 years ago. I learned, for one, that yogis exist. I mean, real yogis. A picture of him on a motorcycle in a Sunday newspaper supplement also convinced me that he was far too macho. My kind of spiritual guide, I told myself, would have something unmistakably feminine about him, even if he'd committed the unfortunate oversight of being born male. Let me say that my doubts weren't laid to rest all at once. My doubts have subsided and returned, subsided and returned. But every time I meet the Guru himself, my ambivalence invariably drops away. Even if Isha's many new ventures and meditators, myself included, are works in progress, he strikes me time and again as the genuine article. There's nothing phony here. No comforting platitudes, no PR, smarmy, savvy spiritualism. There is a dynamism and stillness about him that I instinctively trust. I think that's the juncture at which I'd like to pause and invite on stage the person who has in fact committed that unfortunate oversight of being born male, but who remains, as I say in the book, the most remarkably alive human being I know. As the subject of this book, he's awed me, he's baffled me, and at times he's exasperated me. But he remains nonetheless very dear to me, as he is, I know, to many people here and elsewhere. I'd like to welcome on stage Sadhguru.
Let me clarify that one point. It was not an oversight. I chose to be a male because if I came with this kind of a face as a female, there wouldn't be much scope.
I'm going to start with a couple of questions that I'd like to get out of the way right away. Questions that I think came up for me at the time of this book. And I'm going to start with just asking you the fact that I was particularly struck when we were making this book by the fact that you seemed...
You were making. I was taking a walk.
Okay. For someone who was taking a walk, you seemed remarkably disinclined to micromanage what I was doing, which was actually transcribing those conversations and trying to turn some of that into text. I would imagine that for anyone who was actually working on one's life, if that were to happen to me, I know I'd be far more inclined to micromanage the process. And I think this is probably true for many of us, that it's very difficult to know how to strike that kind of balance between how much to manage and how much to let go. How do you work that out? Or does one have to be a mystic for that?
There are two ways to conduct any process or situations of life. One is to try to manage the situation itself. Another is just manage the people, they will manage the situation. So my whole life is just this, I manage the people, they manage the situations. You're talking about being a disciple of the mind. I feel most human beings are using their mind in an extremely rudimentary way to think and confuse, struggle and stress, not to create and manifest.
you saying that we were all being managed without us knowing it?
No.
Were you also saying that? That you didn't have to manage the situation, but you could actually just manage people? That's what you were saying. So you're saying that in the course of this book…
I didn't manage your writing, I just managed you. Writing is your business, why should I manage that?
We all felt that the most inspirational thing about this journey was the fact that you don't seem to have any of the trappings of holiness.
Who?
You. Or you didn't before you… at the moment that you discovered yourself. It's a constant reminder that to know yourself, you don't seem to need any of the things that we customarily associate with spirituality, or that have come to be associated with it. Religious allegiance of any kind, or the knowledge of scripture. I guess my question is, no, you don't think?
No, it's just that I think these impressions have fallen upon people's minds, mainly because people who should have just been temple priests are claiming to be gurus, that's why. Just because they happen to be born in a certain caste or creed, they become gurus. They should have just been temple priests doing a certain ritual. Now they claim to be gurus, so naturally they give that impression. And that impression permeates in the society today, unfortunately. Otherwise, just look back and see any guru of any consequence in the history of this nation or anywhere else for that matter, have they fit into any your ideas or trappings of holiness or nonsense? Have they? Everybody has been a revolution by himself, isn't it? Every one of them. Based on his life, somebody else tries to create a tradition, not realizing that he was a revolution and that's the only way it can happen. When there is a revelation, there is bound to be a revolution. I keep telling people, see, I'm an uneducated guru. People say, no. I said, don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not saying something negative about myself because that's the only qualification I have. Because from the moment you're born, just about anybody around you, your parents, all the adults around you, just everybody is trying to educate you about things that have not worked in their life. Everybody is trying to educate you to remain uneducated, uninfluenced by your parentage, by your genetics, by social situations, the cultural situations, your teachers, your friends, not to be influenced by anything, just to sit here and look at life. If you remain uneducated, you will also get enlightened. That is the qualification I earned. Constantly wherever I went, it is just that I made sure that nobody influences me, because I could clearly see almost everybody is talking about things that they do not know. They don't even know that they don't know, that's a problem. Really. Right now, our ideas of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, whatever is our experience of life, is only happening within ourselves. Unless we look at that mechanism, you are seeing life, knowing life, just the way nature is permitting you to do so. There are many other creatures who are seeing the same situation in a different way, isn't it? So, nature is permitting you to see life only with through a certain keyhole, because for your survival, that's all that's necessary. Only when you become like this, because this is the nature of the human being, that he is not willing to settle for just survival, he wants to be something more. Not knowing that what is that something more, people do all kinds of things. It doesn't matter what they do. Essentially, they are trying to be something more than who they are right now, isn't it? If you want to be something more, you can only be something more here, not there. If you are something more just in the world, when they clap their hands, you will go up, when they do this, you will go down. Somebody else, something else, the social fickleness will determine how you will be. It is just that I refuse to get educated by anybody. I refuse to be influenced even by a single thought or emotion around me. I think that was the most significant thing, and I think that's what I'm trying to put upon everybody, not to be influenced. But people tell me, Sadhguru, how not to be influenced by you? I said, that's the thing. That's the whole thing. If you're influenced by me, you will miss me. If you're not influenced by me and you're with me, you will be empowered by me. That's important.
You say that you never really knew what water was and you never really knew what stones
No,
were.
even now I do not know. Do you know?
No, I don't, clearly. But I'm curious to know then what you meant when you say you had this moment on Chamundi Hill at the age of 25, a life, you'll find it in the book if you haven't heard of it already, a life-transforming experience on Chamundi Hill. He went up for a few minutes, for half an hour, and came back 6 hours later, a mystic. What happened on
She's
Chamundi?
beginning to talk like she writes script in the local cinema.
I think my question is, if this moment is what we call a moment of self-knowledge or enlightenment, you actually go on to talk about it later as a condition of borderless ignorance. So are you saying that the ignorance that existed earlier was just amplified at this point? Because that in itself is a kind of boggling concept.
See, only ignorance can be limitless, isn't it? Can knowledge be limitless? Knowledge is always limited. How much ever you know, it's still limited. But ignorance is boundless, isn't it? So I mean, I'm not trying to be a mystic, okay? She brings up this kind of issues. Ignorance is definitely borderless, boundless. And it is the ignorance which empowers us to search, seek, explore, limitlessly travel through the scape of life. Knowledge would render you to your grave when you're alive. If you're satisfied with what you know, it would render you to your grave very quickly. The grave may not be of stone, usually it is made of paper. They call it scriptures. People just go there and bury themselves in the scripture. You know, you have heard this, somebody buried himself into your book. You do. So that's a grave. Wherever you're buried, that's a grave, isn't it? So people bury themselves into this because knowledge just gives you a certain sense of security. Knowledge gives you a certain sense of belonging. Knowledge gives you a certain sense of, I'm somebody. Knowledge gives you a sense of something that you're worthwhile in some way. Knowledge takes away the tremendous possibility of being a worthless speck of dust in this existence that can be just blown anywhere and just be there. The existence is a part of it. Knowledge takes away the possibility of union, which is yoga. Knowledge takes away the possibility of inclusiveness. Knowledge is always exclusive, please see this. The more knowledgeable you become, the more removed you become from everybody. Ignorance is like a sponge, it picks up everything. Knowledge is already heavy, it cannot pick up anything. Even today, if I walk on the street, or this moment when I sit here, I'm completely empty-headed at this, like, every time I enter and look at people, I'm absolutely empty. Okay, I look at them, okay, what do they need, and I speak. Not once do I walk into a hall thinking, what will I speak, what will I say? There is no such thing in me because what is there to say? The magnitude of ignorance is stupendous compared to the minuscule nature of knowledge. Just by sheer size, you must put knowledge in the back seat because it's no use. It's just not even comparable in size, is it? The magnitude of ignorance of this cosmic space and the knowledge of what we have about it, is it comparable? You think it's comparable?
I think what fascinated me during this entire process was the fact that Sadhguru turns out epigram after epigram when he talks, and in every second epigram there's a paradox. And as a poet, that of course appealed to me enormously, and I didn't want to ask him to decode each one of them. But this is an opportunity to ask you to at least offer an entry point into some. So the borderless ignorance thing was one. I'm not sure you've totally answered it, but it's one such question. The other one was this point at which you say that faith, this again was a marvelous quotable quote. He says, faith is mature reason and atheism is immature reason. I think what appealed to me about that, of course, was that faith and reason came into the very same definition.
See, right now, we are sitting here, all of us, on a round planet. It's a planet round. Does it sound reasonable to you? And it's spinning, and it's moving at a tremendous speed. And the solar system itself is traveling, we know that now. The whole galaxy is traveling. We don't know what's the speed. Nobody ever passed a milestone to know what speed we are traveling. So in all this, the existence the way it is, you and me are sitting here and doing this gossip session. Does it sound reasonable to you? If you extend your reason all the way, does it sound reasonable to you? It's utterly, absolutely unreasonable that when the planet is spinning like this, traveling at such a speed, everything is happening, and we don't know one thing from the other, and we sit here and talk with such authority about everything. Does it seem reasonable to you? There is no reason to anything, isn't it? Reason or the human logic is essentially useful to handle the material aspects of life. If you try to stretch your reason or logic to the life process itself, you will be completely lost. You'll be completely lost because logic will flounder the moment you enter the life process. So the more logical somebody becomes, the more struggles he starts for himself, within himself or herself. I was not using him as a masculine thing, it's I grew up in 50s, 60s where him was universal, not a male thing. The logical dimension of who you are is, your logic is useful only to handle the material of life because your logic has evolved through the partial perceptions of your five senses. When I say partial perceptions, the very nature of your sense organs right now are such, it can only perceive anything partially. If I show you this part of my hand, you cannot see this. If I show you this, you cannot see this. This is not just with my hand, even if you take a grain of sand, that's how your perception is. You can hear the sound, but you cannot hear the silence. Everything is like this because your sense organs are devised like this. They perceive everything in parts. It is because your perception is all in parts that you have evolved a logic. If there was no two, there would be no logic, isn't it? The basis of logic is you have divided the existence in your understanding. That is why there is logic. With this instrument of logic, if you try to go beyond a certain point, then you will see you'll flounder, you don't get anywhere. Even modern science is beginning to realize this. Today scientists are talking about fuzzy logic because they're unwilling to admit they're getting illogical. What's fuzzy logic? Fuzzy logic means you're getting mixed up, isn't it? So, essentially, it is beyond its ambit, that's all. Nothing wrong with it, nothing right about it, nothing wrong about it. It's wonderful in a certain area. It's just like, you're not a driver, so you won't understand this. If you were driving your whatever, I see lots of BMWs around in Bombay right now. So you're driving a BMW, a good car to drive in the Bombay streets, or you want to take it out, but tomorrow you want to go to the moon. If you try to go to the moon with your BMW, well, you saw the moon out there, and if you want to go to the moon full blast, the only thing that may happen is we'll have to fish you out of the ocean. You're not going to go to the moon. So with your logic, if you try to go beyond a certain point, you have to be extricated. That's why you said, maybe we will need a psychoanalyst, not a guru. Psychoanalyst is only trying to extricate you, not to elevate you, isn't it? So no, a psychoanalyst is only trying to extricate you from the mess that you've gotten into. Why the mess has happened? The mess has happened essentially because you're trying to drive your BMW to the moon. Before it becomes a wreck, we must understand this is not the instrument to go there. Enjoy the BMW here. If you want to go up, there's another kind of instrument. Without that, there's another kind of vehicle without which you cannot go.
And the Guru's job is to help prepare that vehicle?
To build you a spacecraft.
To build you on a spacecraft?
Yes.
I mean, these are just terms that we all grow up with without really knowing the distinction, I think, very often. What is the difference between a guru and a saint?
If you just want to be blessed, what is a blessing? Let's understand this. See, today, there's a lot of research and science has grown in this direction. See, right now, this vessel of water, if I just hold my hand like this for a minute and give it to you, in the laboratory, we can prove to you the molecular structure of this water will change, depending upon my thought, my emotion, my energy, and things like that. Do you know this?
You mean if a guru touches it?
No, anybody. A guru may have little more control over the situation, that's all. If you look at the water with lots of love and give it to somebody, the water will behave in a certain way because the molecular structure of the water will change without changing the chemical structure of the water. This is an established fact today, it's a scientific fact. So now, in India, Tirth, in the temple, even if you're multi-billionaire for that drop of water, people are struggling like this because they're thinking the water has memory. They are wanting that because that water may carry the memory of the divine. They want to have a little bit of that in their system. So that may look like a crazy thing for you, but today modern science is saying this. Well, your grandmother said this also to you. Do not receive water or food or just from anybody, you must eat it in the right place, from the right people. They told you in Tamil Nadu for sure. But when your grandmother said it was superstition, but now that it comes after $1 million or $1 billion research, it's science. Now they're telling you the same thing. So, the influence that you can exert upon the five elements, all the five elements have a memory of their own. That's the reason why they're behaving the way they're behaving. What you call as myself, what you call as the human structure, is essentially the work of a certain software. Software means memory, isn't it? That we know today. Memory chip, memory card, all these things we're using, the names, the terminology has come in. Now, the same thing that was soil became food. That same thing that was food became human being. That same thing that's food becomes soil again. What is it that's happening? What is it… how come the soil became a fruit or a flower or whatever else? Just the memory that is carried in the seed, isn't it? Isn't it so? How is it that anybody looks like their father or mother or this or that? It's just the memory carried in that one single cell of seed, isn't it so? So, the material is same, it's just the same five elements, it is just the memory. Now, you can influence the memory in so many ways. You just by a thought, emotion or with a certain control over your energies, you can influence the memory immensely to a point where everything about it will change. So if I can change the water in this vessel, you are also 72% water, you know. So if I can influence this water, can I not influence that water? So if I can make this water pleasant, can I not make that 72% water pleasant? This is the science of yoga. This is what is people are thinking is mysticism. There is nothing mystical in the existence. Anything that you are ignorant of seems mystical to you. Isn't it? Whatever you are ignorant of seems mystical to you, isn't it?
And the Guru has reached a point of borderless ignorance.
Yes. If you have become borderless ignorance, if you have no knowledge of your own, that means you have no memory of your own. It is that knowledge which separates you from the rest of the existence, isn't it? If you have no knowledge of your own, if you are borderless ignorance, aren't you as big as the creation itself?
And the Guru and a saint?
A saint is somebody with his whatever work that he might have done with himself, he's become a pleasant being. He blesses people. A blessing is like… it's like, having your cell phone charged a bit. But it again runs out. Yes, depends on the use. How quickly it runs out depends on the use. So in India, people understood this. Traditionally they understood this, now it's just whatever. But even now, there is a certain understanding in the culture that if there is a saint, seek his blessing, it doesn't matter, you don't know who he is. See, you don't have to do anything. Now that you talked about whatever the… even if you have some film extra dressed up like a saint and make him sit there, and you bring your friend in India, any Indian person and say, this is a saint, immediately he'll go touch his feet. Because he understands wherever possible, whatever little blessing he can receive, he must receive, which is a certain intelligence, I'm saying. Wherever possible, as much blessing as possible you gather because these things run out, he knows that. He knows that it lasts only for a certain time, so wherever possible, as much as possible, you are in the airport, are you not looking for the charging port? So wherever possible, if you just… he doesn't have to be anything. If you simply say, without question, they'll seek blessing. If he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it, all I got is little exercise. What's the problem? I mean, he doesn't have an issue about it. If there is something, I'll get it, if there isn't, I don't get it, so what? So saints are like this, they cannot interfere with… interfere is a wrong word for you because it's a very negative word. They cannot fix anything about you, they can only bless you. A guru is like a mechanic. A mechanic's job is not as graceful as that of a saint. It's definitely more graceful than getting hands-on and doing all kinds of things with you, isn't it? But a guru is a mechanic. If you have a disorder of any kind, you must go to a mechanic, isn't it? I don't have any disorder, I am fine. That is a disorder. Do you understand? Because the disorder is you have not even opened your eyes and look at the existence around you. To even say that I am fine, not knowing where you came from, where you will go, what is the nature of the existence, who I am, what I am, not knowing anything and saying I am fine, that is a serious disorder. So if you have a disorder like this, then you must go to your guru because he's not there just to bless you, he's there to work with you. It's a different game altogether. If you are looking for solace, you must go to a saint, he's good. If you're looking for a solution, only then you must go to a guru. You don't go to a guru for solace because he will disturb the hell out of you. He's not here to pacify you, he's here to awaken you. He's not a tranquilizer, he's a come awake solution. So if all you want is you want to be blessed and you want to go to sleep well tonight, you must go to a saint, nothing wrong with it. Right now, somebody just wants to sleep well today. Blessing is all they need. Someone else is in pursuit of wanting to know the ultimate. That's a different problem altogether, isn't it? So for that, you go to a different place. So a guru is more like a mechanic, or he's like a roadmap, he's a solution. He is not a solace. People come and always ask me, Sadhguru, please bless us, nothing should happen to me. I said, what kind of blessing is this? My blessing is let everything happen to you. Let everything that's life happen to you, isn't it? Let joy happen to you, grief happen to you, life happen to you, death happen to you, let everything happen to you. Have you come here to be insulated from life? Or have you come here to experience life? What is the basis of you being here? You have come here to experience life, then everything must happen to you, isn't it?
You also say that teaching is just one part of your work and a very small part of your work. And you say the greater part of your work is transmission. And that's what every guru is here for. What is transmission? Transmission of ignorance?
Transmission of the knowing that you're ignorant. When you say teaching, probably I was talking about the programs and going around the world talking. This is just definitely a very minor part of my life. Because when I speak, I'm not trying to give any teaching, I'm only trying to make people thirsty to know. I'm only here to make people realize they're ignorant. People have said this again and again. Any number of times you come there, he only reminds us in a million ways that we do not know. That's not good, he must tell us what to do. So what you're looking for is an advice. The very fundamental of seeking advice is that you want a ready-made solution for the life. And something you want to invest in the stock and you take somebody's advice, that's different. That also, it's better you figure it yourself, but somebody's an expert, you seek it as advice, that's different. When it comes to your life, seeking advice about whole life is a foolish thing to do. So, advice essentially means you want to go through life unscathed. Some safety capsule with which you can pass off without experiencing life. So people seeking advice, people seeking teachings is essentially because they think they can collect it. Because human beings have been, hunters and gatherers for a long time. When they could gather pieces of bones and tooth and this, they hung it around them, feathers and whatever. Later on it became gold and diamonds and then it becomes knowledge and scriptures and whatever, but still they're hunters and gatherers, isn't it? Unless your hunting and gathering stops, you will not know anything of the spiritual dimension. It will not happen that way. Both your hunting and gathering has to stop. You take some time to settle in a place because you come with doubts and problems and this and that, it's fine. But once something of significance has touched you, you must settle down, no hunting, no gathering, just being there. Otherwise, one will not be able to perceive this. So, transmission is essentially on that level. As maybe I have said to you also, I do not know, but I have initiated more people on this planet that I have never met than the people that I have met. People may sit in front of me and miss the whole point. Somebody that I have never met, the moment I see an opening, this will happen. Because this is not about talking, this is not about teaching, this is not about trying to make someone understand. The understanding is only towards that one thing is to understand that it is not a question of a mental exercise. Spiritual process is a way to transcend the limitations of the physical dimension of who you are right now. When I say physical, that includes mental, that's not something that you may approve of. But physicality and mentality are not two different things. Mind is also a physical thing. It is more subtle, it's just like if you see the light bulb, you can very clearly see it is physical, no question about it. Now if I ask, is this light physical? Now some people will think, is it physical or not? Well, when you were in high school, did you study light in your physics book or your spiritual textbook? Obviously in your physics textbook, isn't it? So it is physical. Is the electricity which is powering this bulb, is it physical? Definitely it's physical. But people may have issues about these things, that light is not physical, light is divine, light is something else. No, light is physical, bulb is physical, electricity is physical. So similarly, body is physical, mind is physical, emotion is physical. It is just getting little subtler, that's all. With this physicality, you cannot access the non-physical dimension about the borderless ignorance. See, the nature of the physical is a boundary, please understand this. A physical can exist only with a defined boundary. Without the definition of a boundary, there is no physicality. Do you understand what I'm saying? Without a defined boundary, there cannot be anything physical. Now I can call this physical body only because there is a boundary. If I remove the boundaries of this, there is no such thing as physical here. So you're talking about spirituality. When you say spiritual process, you're talking about a dimension beyond the physical. Not a teaching, not a scripture, not somebody's ideology, but you want to touch that dimension which is beyond boundaries, because this is not my inspiration for you. This is what every human being is longing for every moment of his life. Whoever he is, he wants to be something more, isn't it? If that something more happens, he wants to be something more. So they want to become infinite, but they're attempting it in installments. If I put you into any kind of boundary, the moment you realize there is a boundary, you want to break it, isn't it? Because this is not a cultivated stance. This is the basis of being human. The moment you see there is a limitation, there is a boundary, you want to go beyond that. If you go beyond that what? Till you taste the next limitation, then you want to go beyond that. So there is something within you which does not like boundaries. There is something within you which is boundless or borderless. And that cannot be named as anything. The simplest thing is to say, that's me. And that's borderless ignorance, isn't it? Knowledge is a physical thing. Spiritual process is not a physical thing.
You know, you mention that you know what is going on with your followers at any point of time. You mentioned, you know, even if you are geographically apart or any time, how do you carry the energy of millions of your devotees or your mediators with you?
No, I'm not spying on them all the time.
There's a lovely incident where one of your, I'm forgetting her name now, she was having an argument with her husband because she wanted to come over to be part of your course. And then you told her, now just shut up and go to sleep and stop arguing with your husband. The telephone rang and you just told her to go to sleep and stop arguing with her husband. And she was in an entirely different geographical place to where you were.
The neighbors must have called me. To save themselves from my disciple, no. See, the thing is just this, it's not the argument that I know of. It is just that once you initiate somebody into something, it's more like to put it in modern terms, it's more like a repository of things are with you. If they hit a real bottom, you know. If they hit the peak, for sure you know. You set this up not because you're watching out for their bottoms. I'm not interested when they go down to hell. I'm interested if they get enlightened, I must know. Because I planted seed and if it flowers, I must know. It is in that interest I keep everybody on the tap, hoping that tomorrow morning somebody will blossom somewhere. But unfortunately, even when they hit the bottom, I become aware. I set this up mechanism within myself, hoping that when they really blossom, I shouldn't miss it. Such a great happening, she's not to be missed. That is why this is set up. But you know, it's like a warning mechanism. If the highest intensity does it, the lowest thing also does it.
Not that one understands the mechanism either, still, no?
Do you understand the microphone that you're using? Do you know how exactly it works?
No.
Then when you have no issue holding it and using it, even if you do not understand, what's the problem with the guru, I'm saying?
My question is regarding your schedule. I've been hearing from some of the volunteers how you travel and next moment you're paying calls or whatever. I don't know how you do it and where the energy is coming from. Is this something you haven't told us, or is it something you have told us and you've not understood it right? What is it? The energies are limitless.
It's not limitless, sometimes I crash. For those of you who are doing very simple processes in the form of yogic systems, you yourself are experiencing just 2-3 months of practice, it's putting you in a different league of energy compared to people around you. If you put enough years into it, or if you put enough intensity and involvement into it, it will do that. There's nothing superhuman about this. This is just human. Human being, if he is exuberant and involved, I'm saying involved, not entangled, involved with the process of life, that's how it will be. Have you noticed with yourself on a certain day, let's say there's no yoga, nothing in your life, but on a certain day, you're extremely happy and joyful about something. That day you don't need food, you don't need sleep, nothing, you're just on and on and on. Have you noticed this? Have you noticed this? Why on other days you're running out of your battery so soon? Because uninvolved life. For me, every moment is like, if there is somebody here, nobody here. My life is like an ongoing first-time love affair. If I sit here and breathe or eat or do something, I'm like going on all the time with everything. To tell you a simple process of this, we did this with a few people. And a few months ago when we were in the United States, we had a 90-day program. I told them, see, if you keep yourself, if you just listen to me, I can reduce your food, whatever you're eating, to 30% of what you're eating and still be as active and not lose weight. That's it, Sadhguru, not possible, and all doctors in the program, not possible, calorie like this, fat like this, that will happen, this will happen. I said, it doesn't matter. You want to try. Then we put them through this simple process and said, just be like this, on. You will see you'll not lose weight. You will eat only 30% of the food that you're eating and you'll be wonderfully fine, because there is something called as receptivity. Life is receptivity. Coming back to borderless ignorance, ignorance is receptivity, isn't it? Awareness of ignorance is receptivity, isn't it so? Yes? This life, as you sit here, your body is not a solid thing, it's an ongoing process. Your mind is not some kind of solid state, it is an ongoing process. It is only receptivity which empowers your mind for sure, isn't it? And it's only receptivity which empowers your body. If you sit here, you're not aware of it. The moment I tell you, you will be aware of it, you are inhaling and exhaling. That means constantly you're receiving and receiving. If you say, no, I'm not such a slave to all these people, I don't want to inhale what all these people are inhaling and exhaling, and hold your breath, your life process will stop, isn't it? So this is receptivity. If your receptivity is really kept at its peak, 60% of all the energy that you generate, that is needed for the body, to build the body, to run the body, comes from water, air and sunlight. Only 40% comes from the food that you eat. And if you make yourself little more open by doing certain other things, I'm saying just by normal joy, you don't know any yoga, you have not understood the mechanics of the body, what to do with it, to unleash other dimensions of energy. No, nothing you know, simply you're a joyful, passionate person. You will see your food quota will go down, your energy levels will go up. Every one of you have experienced this on certain days, isn't it so? Yes or no? Why is it you're not like that every day? Because you have set a prescription for yourself. Only if this happens, I will involve myself. With the rest, I will not involve myself. So, right now you're breathing without involvement, unconsciously. Heart beating, no involvement, unconsciously. This happened to me when I was just 17 years of age, because by then I had closed my eyes and particularly if I have to eat, even today my eyes will naturally close, I don't even have to think. If I have to drink water, my eyes will naturally close. Because on that day, I just took a morsel of food and put it in my mouth, it just exploded in my mouth. Something that is not me. So it was somewhere else. It came on my plate, I put it in my mouth. Now it's becoming me, right here. It doesn't even have to go digestion, right here in the very mouth region, what was not you is becoming you. Is this not love affair? The whole love affair is just this, trying to include somebody as a part of you desperately. Not working very well, but you try. Isn't it? Isn't that what a love affair is? You're trying to include somebody as a part of yourself, this is your love affair, isn't it? So this is something, not even a human being, some other life, a vegetable, something else, comes here and willingly becoming a part of you. To what extent it becomes a part of you depends upon your receptivity. Not everybody will get the same stuff or the same food that they eat. Two healthy people, if they are given the same nutrition and keep them in different states of mind, these experiments have been done. You keep one person happy, keep another person unhappy, you will see what he receives from the food. Happy person, what he receives, unhappy person, what he receives is very different. That's one dimension of receptivity. There are other dimensions of this. In yoga, we say, your spine is the center of the universe. That looks like too presumptuous a thing to say, I am the center of the universe means you are some kind of a megalo, yes? But we say it is Merudanda, it is the axis of the universe. Why this is being said is, your experience of life is all being generated from your spine. You know the world only the way you experience it. And this experience is generated by your system, not by the world. You see me right now? Yes? You think you see me here on stage, it's not true. Actually, this light falls upon me, reflects and goes into your, through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the story. If it falls in the retina, from there, in your brain, it breaks up into 14 different parts. Right now you're seeing me in 14 different places in your brain. One place you're seeing only the color, in another place the texture, in another place the form, like this it goes on. It's digitally broken and you're seeing it actually in 14 places, but in your experience it looks like it's one. Now, this is receptivity. When I say this is receptivity, it is not just what goes in, but how it impacts you inside is your receptivity. Everybody takes in oxygen, carbon dioxide, not everybody can receive the same stuff. If you sit here and simply breathe, if I go to a new place, the first thing I do is I simply sit like this. Everything significant that's happened in that place, if it's of any spiritual significance, I immediately know, because it's just there. The memory of the land, the memory of the rocks, the memory of the trees, it's all simply there because everything, all the five elements have strong sense of memory, billions of years of memory. Now, receptivity is on many different levels. There's a beautiful incident in Vivekananda's life. Swami Vivekananda went to Europe and he was staying with a philosopher. You know his name? What's his name? It's a German philosopher. So he was his guest and after dinner they met in the study and there was a huge book on his table. Vivekananda said, can you give me this book? Let me give it for an hour, let me read it and see what's in it. Because the German philosopher was speaking such great things about the book. The German philosopher laughed, how can you read it in an hour? I've been reading it for months. And it's in German language, it's not in English, you can't read. Vivekananda said, it doesn't matter, give it to me, let me see. So he was given the book, he placed it between his two hands and just sat like this for an hour. Then he gave it back and said, it's not of any significance. He said, this is rubbish, you know, this is arrogance at its peak. You do not even open the book and you dare to make a comment about the book. Then Vivekananda said, you ask me any page, what you want. So page 632, what? Verbatim, he repeats. Any page, you name the page, he will just repeat it verbatim. That man was just awestruck. He said, how is this possible? He said, that's why I am Vivekananda. Viveka means perception, you know. His name is Narendra. His guru called him Vivekananda because he saw he's of that level of perception. So perception and receptivity are not two different things. Receptivity, if it is increased, perception will naturally increase. If perception is high, receptivity will be naturally high. So from the same morsel of food, what one person receives, what another person receives is very, very different. Apart from that, this being the center of the universe is not a wrong thing. See, in you saying my spine is the axis or the center of the universe, nothing wrong because nobody knows where the boundary is anyway. Yes? When you do not know where the boundary is, it is possible that you could be the center, isn't it? That is another thing, but the center of your experience is your spine. And your universe is just the way you experience it, you don't know anything else, isn't it? Yes or no? The way you perceive and experience this universe, that's all you know. And this is the center of that. So my spine is the center of the universe. And if I activate it, it just receives everything directly. So a yogi just sits there, simply sits there for days on end, doesn't lose weight, has not taken on anything, no input, but still doesn't lose weight. Because perception and receptivity is at many different levels. I had a great-grandmother who lived up to be 113, 113 years of age. I have seen her only when she was over 100 years of age. So she was like this, she used to live by herself elsewhere and she used to come when we used to go as children to my grandfather's place. And in the morning if you give her breakfast, she would first take it and where she look for the ants, where some ants are there, some squirrels are there, sparrows don't exist anymore, but there used to be lots of sparrows for sparrows everywhere. Almost 3/4 of her food she'll give it away. And she'll just watch the ants eating. Tears will be running down her cheeks and somebody will come and say, you old woman, if you don't eat, you throw food all over the place, you will die. All these people who gave nutritional advice to her, they all died. She never died, she lived up to be 113. She buried her children, her grandchildren, a few of her great-grandchildren, but she lived on, okay? And she would sometimes just keep that food aside and she says, I'm already full. When I was just 5, 6 years of age, I just thought this is some emotional rubbish, this old woman is just emotional, she loves the ants maybe because they have not bitten her yet. But it took me many, many years to realize this, that this is not emotional stuff. In her experience, if the ants ate, she ate and her body was nourished. She was so much one with it that if they ate, her body got nourished, she didn't have to eat. The day it happened, she doesn't eat. The day it doesn't happen, she eats. So I'm saying, your ideas of what is your energy, what is somebody's energy, what is this energy, that energy, are happening because of the logical mind. You divided the existence. That's not how the existence is happening. Today modern physics is proving to you without any doubt, as you sit here, every single atom in this body is right now in active communication with just everything in the cosmos. When this is so, Why will you run out of energy? Only if you're oblivious of it, isn't it?
I'd like to ask, what is happening within you that is not happening within us?
What is happening within me? Right now, what's happening within me, or the way it's happening within me. Life only is happening within me, life only is happening within you. But the way it's happening within me right now, I will not exchange this for anything. If you give me the whole world, I won't make a deal. That's how big it is. We are breathing the same air, probably we eat the same kind of food, we live in the same place, but this is how different it can be. Right now, two people are sitting next to each other. One person is in an utter state of depression, another person is exuberantly happy. That itself is phenomenally worlds apart, isn't it so? I'm just trying to give you one understanding because this is something that you have experienced. Have you not experienced this? You are very excited and happy, somebody sitting next to you miserable. Have you not seen this? Or maybe the other way around whichever way. So you know that human experience can fluctuate from here to there, isn't it? And it can go way beyond that. So if you ask what is happening, see, there is a certain process of life right now for you. That is, everything in your life happens in comparison. In the sense, because senses can perceive only in comparison. Because you've seen darkness, you know what's light. Because you have tasted this, you know that. If there is no context for you, you will not know anything, because sense organs need a context always. The reason why people are so afraid of darkness is not because darkness is dangerous. It is not because darkness is dangerous that they're afraid. They're afraid of darkness because they have no context suddenly, isn't it? Isn't it so? Now it's this you know. Now there is no this, there's only this. You need two for the mind to feel comfortable. So because of this, you created many things, up and down, good and bad, forward and backward, all this. But none of these things you actually know. You do not know what is up, what is down, isn't it so? Does anybody know what is up and down in this cosmic space? Huh? Is it somewhere written this side up? Nobody knows which is up, which is down, isn't it? Nobody knows what is forward, what is backward. But you have one context right now which is properly established. What is inward, what is outward, this you know clearly. This you must exercise. This is the only true context you have, everything else is imaginary, please see this. Up and down is imaginary, this and that is imaginary. This one thing is definitely there as real for you, isn't it? Inward, outward. You must exercise this constantly because that is an important part of spiritual growth. In case tomorrow morning, if it so happened that you got enlightened, you will lose this context. Even this will be gone. You will not know which is inside, which is outside. You will not know which is you, which is not you. That's why I'm running around the world like this, not knowing which is me and which is not me. I do not know whether that is me or this is me, because everything that happens there happens to me also. So, that is phenomenal, and maybe people think it's scary. It is scary only because you're thinking in the small mind all this will happen. No, it will not happen like that. There is no context to it to tell you what it is. When it happened to me and I'm trying to shake my head and come to some kind of conclusion, because I cannot believe that I'm not smart enough to figure what's happening to me. I can't stand that, Because when I was young, one thing I could not stand was stupidity. I'm just allergic to it, I'll flare up if I see somebody acting stupid. Now I've learned to live with it, okay? So, I can't stand that I can't figure what's happening to me. How can I not know what's happening to me? So, after great struggle, then I asked my closest friends, what do you think is happening to me? This is what is happening to me. The only thing they can say is, did you drink something? Did you pop something? Did somebody give you something? So because you only think this is how it can happen, because human mind works only from the information that it already has. Please see this. It can only work from the data that it already has. It only churns up various combinations and permutations of what you have and makes it look very exuberant, but actually you're only recycling the past in your mind all the time. Spiritual process will not come this way. One thing is that it does not belong to the past, for sure. Purva janma karma, what about that? That is maybe a preparation probably, but it will not happen because of that. Whatever it may be, if your life experience… people keep on saying, but my life experience has been bitter, yours has been good. That's not the point. If life experience has been bitter for you, you should have gotten wiser sooner than others, isn't it? If you have a working intelligence, I'm saying. So, what is happening? I don't think I'll ever get to articulate that, I'm not that educated.
Sadhguru, you carry yourself with such ease and poise. So just wondering if you have a bad day or you're frustrated at times, and how do you actually tackle such situations? Maybe during the Dhyalinga consecration, maybe disciples like us, we don't really match up to your learning curve or expectations. So how do you grapple with such situations?
Why are you trying to label a day as a bad day or a good day? It is only human beings who, in their experience, they do these things to themselves. Why they do these things to themselves is, see, today there was a glorious sunrise. Millions of flowers blossomed across the planet. So many wonderful things are happening, even the stars are twinkling right now, the moon is full today. Everything is fantastic. But one worm of a thought in your head can make a mess out of you, isn't it so? Isn't it so? So why this is so is, somewhere you are giving or ascribing a lot more importance to your psychological process than the existential process. Instead of being alive, you're being a psychological case. Yes? Because your thought process and your emotion has become far more important than the existential process. That is the only problem, isn't it? Or in other words, the creation, the Creator's creation has not impacted you enough yet. So you think your petty creation in your head is bigger than that. Or to put it bluntly, you're too full of yourself, that's the only reason why you can have a bad day. Otherwise, why? No, the stock market crashed. So what, the sun rose? So many things happen. Does it mean to say nothing goes wrong in my life? More things go wrong with my life than anybody else's life, probably. Anybody here, I would say. Because I don't hesitate to just put my hand into just about anything. Understand? I do not hesitate to put my hand into anything. When you put your hand into just about anything, lot of things will bite you, right? Naturally it will. I want you to understand this. The whole process of suffering is essentially that you have not opened your eyes, you have not peeled your eyes properly and look at the grandeur of everything that's happening around you. Not yet. You've not paid attention. You looked at the world like this. You must look at the world like this. If you just look at one thing, you can't believe how it is. If you ever look at an ant, just see what kind of technology has gone into it, it can keep you engaged for the rest of your life doing research, yes or no? So the problem is just this, that you are giving too much importance to what's happening in your little head, not paying attention to all the magnificent things that are happening in the existence. I've never seen a bad day in the existence. I've only seen bad days in people's moods and minds, isn't it? So I made myself like this, that nothing happens within me without my choice. If there was a choice for you today, would you make this into a blissful day or a miserable day? If you had a choice, what's the choice for yourself? What's the choice for yourself? Blissful day. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself, for sure, it's a good day, super good day, isn't it? So I make it like that for myself, no matter what the hell is happening.
What I want to add is that what you are telling us is that we should all live like angels, which we are.
Oh, no, don't do that.
In a kingdom of heaven.
No.
And be part of the whole cosmic power of the whole universe and live happily every moment of our life, regardless of what is happening around us. Is that what you were trying to tell us? Is my question, sir.
If I have been so unclear, I'm sorry, but that's not what I'm trying to tell you, son. Because I don't know how angels live, they look very uninteresting to me. From the comic books and pictures that I've seen, I find the angels very uninteresting. Indian angels look little more well-dressed and whatever. The generally angels means the white-winged ones look totally whatever. All this talk about angels and heaven and God, there's so much God and divine talk in the world only because most human beings have not realized the immensity of being human. I want you to explore the immensity of being human. If your humanity overflows, divinity will descend in search of you. Nobody need to go in search of God. If you make yourself in a certain way, what the hell can you do? Because divine is the slave of the creation. I want you to understand this. Because only if there is creation, creator is of some significance, isn't it so? Yes or no? Only because there is creation, creator is of some significance. So only because I am here, the creator is of some significance, isn't it? So if this becomes a full-blown human being, then creator cannot help being exposed. In everything he will be exposed, divinity will be exposed in everything, you don't have to go in search of it. Please don't go in search of heaven. The most important thing is to realize the immensity of what it means to be human, because it's not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing to be human. It's not just one more creature who eats, sleeps, reproduces and dies one day. This creature is capable of immense possibilities. My request is every human being should explore that rather than jumping into some conclusion.
You say compassion is sort of another name for spirituality? Compassion and joy, the joy of day-to-day living, is it another name for spirituality?
It is not another name for spirituality, it is one more tool for spirituality. Spirituality is not about compassion or joy or love. See, this is like this. If a society is hungry for food, they will say food is the highest thing. Anna Lakshmi, you know. Nowhere else in the world there is such a thing. If a society is continuously stricken by diseases, health will be the highest thing. A society knows only turmoil, peace will be the highest thing. We are always putting up values in our lives. Love is God, love is the center of the universe. Love is a human emotion, it's a wonderful thing, but every human being is capable of it. People say God is love, I don't know why God should be love, only you must be hugely deprived. That's why you think God is love and from there He will shower love upon you from heaven, because you haven't found one person or you haven't made yourself in such a way that… you have made yourself in such a way nobody loves you in Mumbai.
You said at one point in the book that a guru's compassion is not different from his conspiracy.
I was just trying to feed the poet in you.
It seems almost to suggest that love is a kind of manipulation.
These are all just different words but the same thing. You can live here either in inclusiveness or exclusiveness, that's all the choice you have. If you have included people around you as a part of yourself, you do certain things to them. If you have excluded them from who you are, you do certain other things to them. You can call this management, you can call this conspiracy, you can call this compassion, you can call this love, Essentially, you can live here either including people as yourself or excluding them from you. If you have excluded life around you, you will see how to use them. If you have included life around you as yourself, you will see how to nurture them. To nurture somebody, if you have a child, to nurture him, don't you have conspiracies against the child? Against is not the word, don't you have conspiracies for the child? To send him to school, how much conspiracy you have to do in the morning? Yes or no? If you don't know how to conspire for your child, he may become nothing. He may become no good, isn't it? Don't you have all kinds of conspiracies for your children? If you love somebody, you're full of conspiracy, isn't it? Because not everything can be just presented on the plate and this is it. It doesn't work… life doesn't work like that. So, why can't compassion be a conspiracy? Or why can't conspiracy be compassionate? Both are possible and both are so. All these are just words. Essentially, are you inclusive or exclusive? That's all the question is, isn't it? If you're inclusive, you're allowed… if you've included somebody as a part of yourself, you can do whatever you want with them. If you've not included somebody as a part of yourself, you have no business to touch them, that's all I would say.
You sound like a bit of fun, so I don't feel inhibited in asking you this question, and that is, does a guru need a costume?
Shall I take it off? Anyway, have you ever seen a guru, any other guru being dressed like this? No. So this is not a guru costume. This is the way an Indian man used to be dressed for a long time in this country. Why he dressed like this is because considering the weather conditions, considering the situation around, considering what we produce in this land, considering all that, we made our own kind of clothing. You're dressed the way you are right now. Why you don't have your tie? You're dressed the way you are because you've not been able to shake off the slavery of 300 years. I shook it off. There was a time when I was teaching with my denim pants and t-shirt and I'm doing spiritual teaching and blasting people from this and that. Even then things worked, even then people gathered. But then, is it not important that when people have to look at you constantly, that you make yourself… you can't become pretty, I can't change this, but at least present yourself properly, because people are looking at you all the time. If I was living in the jungle, I would take off everything and sit with my loincloth or maybe even without it. Now you're in a society, is it not important you dress in a way? Is it not important for every human being to make himself into a pleasant human being in every possible way, including the way he looks, to whatever extent he or she can? Is it not an important contribution to life around you? No? Yes. And there are also other aspects to this. Why? With all the fairness to all the other people that you're commenting about, why the yogis and gurus wear unstitched clothing most of the time, and if they wear loose clothing, it is extraordinarily loose, is simply because there are certain other aspects to your body which is more than the physical body. There's a whole activity happening around your body every moment of your life. If you're conscious of it, you will accommodate that also, otherwise you'll wear skin-tight clothing and walk around not knowing what's happening to you. If you're just flesh and bone, skin-tight clothing seems to be all right. But when you're aware there is so much more to you, you naturally give sufficient space because it makes a lot of difference. There are any number of aspects to this, it's not a time to explore that. But with all the fairness to all the other people who go bare-chested or just cover themselves with a shawl, they're not wearing a costume to impress you. They're wearing it because they're doing certain sadhana, they're aware of their energies, they feel restricted if they wear tight stitched clothing. That's why they wear like that.
Sometimes one winds up discussions only for practical reasons. I've wound up the book for practical reasons. It's not over yet. There is...
I'm alive still.
There is a wonderful French poet, Paul Valéry, who says that you never finish a poem, you just abandon it. So the book is abandoned.
Oh, by the reader or the writer?
Hopefully in an interesting state of abandonment for readers. Do pick up your copy if you're inclined, but I'd just like to thank all of you for staying as long as you have, and Sadhguru for making the time, for being the kind of subject one doesn't want to abandon. Thank you.
कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले मारियो बाण घाव नहीं तन पे